This is the city getting ready for Moomba Festival. They're testing out their games and their rides and things. So I don't know what that is meant to be, but it looks kind of flash, and this camera makes it much brighter than what it is. It's actually really just colourful but not super bright. These cameras are shit. So that's how light it is. It's not as light, and when you go closer look what the stupid camera does, horrendous, isn't it? It's really just bullshit. So when you get to about here, that's it. That's what it looks like. A bit nicer, isn't it? Without the bullshit. Because when you try and go and look at that, it does a shit job of depicting what you want to look at. That's our shrine. Oh yeah, I saw a video of some sometime in February, some of the white boys, Western kind, were blocked from going to the bugle call at the Shrine of Remembrance. So disappointing that even our police of Western kind are not seeing and not standing up for our own. It's quite disappointing and distressing, to be honest, that they're not racially cohesive, and just want everyone to mix, which we don't want to mix. It's a bad idea. But so yeah, it's extraordinarily disappointing that they wouldn't let them just go there. I mean, I don't think they were doing anything, and they don't like when we speak up about being genocided. So I don't know. What do you think? White erasure is quite a serious crime in international law. It's called genocide, and so what are we doing about it? And why are we, or many people, allowing it and even participating in it? Like what's happening or being done by the law library, not allowing me to just go in there and finish those court papers and things that I've been working on. And I've worked out that I was working on those papers in May. And so from May until August, I was in such survival mind that I couldn't write anymore. And so my documents are still back at the stage in May. And it took quite some months to get to a point where I can think again, because of the amount of extensive damage being done to me by various people. And Victoria Police constantly thinking they should pick me up and move me, and cause problems in the Supreme Court, Law Library and Supreme Court, I guess CEO and directors are not performing according to what they should be doing for our people, given that it's us who's being genocided, and deliberately so by invaders upon our land, and they don't see it that way. But I did see a supposed Aboriginal post saying that white natives and Aboriginal natives, black and white, should be, and that's their words, not mine, should be, that there shouldn't be welcomes to country, that we should be all treated, given what we need. instead of disenfranchised. That's my word, but anyway. And so I noticed in that post that this man, well, male, supposed Aboriginal, said black in capital letter to start with it, and white with no capital letter. And so we see just how they really think. And this is the problem that we face as a people, is that if he's putting black with a capital and white with none, he's got a very clear view about thinking that his race is more superior than ours. And it's a very big issue, isn't it, when you commit apartheid like that against a people because of the nature of how we're born. And so it's really difficult to explain to people these little nuances of the racial abuse. I don't know if that's the right word. Did you know the word abuse in law was determined by justice to mean someone standing up against something that they've said no to? So, in the context of medical abuse, where people say, not medical abuse, but in a medical situation where the medical people in the hospital have said that someone is abusive, the justice has said what that means is that they were arguing against forced medical treatment. And that's quite interesting, isn't it? That words can mean different things because of how the medical people have decided to use the word abuse against us whenever we speak up that we don't want something. And I've discovered also that aggression or aggressive, can also mean someone who's complaining about being medically assaulted by hospital people. And it's really fascinating because that information is very helpful for me because, in particular, it could be anybody. It's helpful to know these things and find it out. But you need to look at Stroud's judicial dictionary. Stroud's? I think it's judicial dictionary. And there's another one. What's the other one called? Jowett's dictionary. They're two really important law type of reference books that the Stroud's mentions lots of judiciary comments on words, and those comments are quoted from case hearings and case records. And so that's really fascinating. And also Jowett's is also just terminology used in law, in courts and whatnot, in contracts and different things. Yeah, so really interesting, two interesting reference books. Also, of course, there's things like Black's Law Dictionary and these type of things. But I found is good when you add to it, when you add that to things. And I wouldn't just say extraordinarily lucky, I wouldn't even say privileged. I'll be just saying that my time spent in the law library has been useful, except that from May through to probably a month or two ago, my mind was not able to think, and I'm having the impacts of the traumatic experiences now. So imagine being in your own country where you were born and being unable to function, and then have everything cancelled on you for defamation instead, rather than real things. Because isn't someone committing assault with a lethal weapon, i.e. an injection of poison toxins, isn't that a means for self-defense when there's already a document in the Supreme Court saying no one is to put an injection into one's body without written authorization? So Ambulance Victoria and Victoria Police committed a war crime, and that's going to be seen in the Supreme Court when a judicial review goes through. And they also did things like defamation, where they said one has hatred for the police. I'd like to see where they how they explain the evidence for that, because that was not how things happened at all. And how can an external individual surmise what's going on inside the mind of another person, or another man or woman, or another living anything, really? And they're going to try and hide behind the fiction. But the fiction owes the reality. The fiction owes the living beneficiaries. So these assaults will be mentioned in the courts. And the other thing Ambulance Victoria did was reported a case of biting and spitting. And given that there was no hearing, and thus no conviction on any of those topics, which, by the way, are defamatory until proven to be done with mens rea, which is a guilty mind, which means it's been deliberate. Until that happens, they can't say that those things happened. And so that's where the defamation is. And so I want to ask them in the court to prove their defamatory comments, because those kind of comments have now been fed into the Victorian Institute of Teachers, and the Victorian Institute of Teachers has cancelled the registration from 2023. So we see quite clearly how defamation by Victoria Police and Ambulance Victoria is destroying the lives of our people simply for being. And when foreign invaders come in and defame us and racially vilify us and browbeat us to a point where we can't live in our own land doing our own things anymore, and then we get to lose everything as a people, one by one, picked off one by one in the courts, because we're too stupid to be a people. We're too trained out of being a great people, which we were just not so long ago. But over the course of the last century and a half, or maybe not quite, maybe a century and a quarter, we've let things get away from us and we have forgotten. We've forgotten who we are. And it's time we woke up and remembered that we are the blood of the Anzac. We are the blood of the Israelites of old. We are the descendants of Queen Victoria and everything that is graceful under her, and under King James I, and under all the lineages going way back before him, right back to Adam. And that Adam means ruddy, or goes blushing in the face, goes red in the face. Ruddy means red. And that we're not mixed, we're not screwy. We get all these mental health assessments, and then the police think they're so qualified they know what the fuck is going on. But they're just a bunch of hooligans with uniforms and weapons. And they have no right to touch us unless we're committing a crime against someone else. And so Victoria Police again is warned, you're not to touch us. Your false arrests and you're moving us along from our own places of our own ancestries is not appropriate, and it's an act of genocide and apartheid against us as a people. It's worse than not appropriate. It's a complete displacement and culling us out of our own ancestry as a people. And instead of educating all these foreign invaders on the importance of maintaining us as a people, you're educating and schooling them to take sides with the mixed race bastards that are stealing our identity yet again. And this keeps being done by bastards. And I don't mean the regular unmarried parents had a bastard child. That's not what it means. It means mixed. These mixed bastards are not in the Commonwealth. They don't consider themselves in the Commonwealth. They consider themselves the owners of the entire land. But the problem is there's such a great minority, as tiny in number as possible, that nobody else gives two hoots about what flag they go under. There's only two groups who care what flag we go under. And that is the Israelites and the Edomites. Now you got to figure out which side you're on. Now I'm talking metaphorically in the Bible language, aren't I? Who are the Israelites? And who are the Edomites? And if you can't work it out yet, I've already given you that answer a little bit earlier in this very discussion today. Monologue discussion. So if you don't know already, it's time to wake up. We are totally being crushed out. And if we don't start moving out and back into the Commonwealth, we're going to lose everything anyway. And it's not just going to be lost, it's going to be taken by foreigners, foreign invaders, just like what's being done to France, Germany, and a bunch of other of our countries. I don't know when Western kind's going to wake up. It's so tiring. I'm trying to build people up. And I've got the soul-crushing bullshit here. And our people are so daft and so thick that they would restrict one of their own kind from our own ancestral records simply because they're trying to have a corporation look after it. And that's what's being done in the law library. They're trying to get a corporation to look after the friggin' building. And so our holy records of our people, of our holy law, is going to be risked. The safety of our stuff is going to be risked in a corporation overseeing it instead of us protecting it ourselves like we have always done. And as various, I'm going to say non-whites, it's the easiest way to put it, as more of those come in there, the law is not going to be seen as sacred any longer, and we're going to be culled, for want of a word that would be more accurate, but that's the word. And our records are going to be the word is, let me think. The law at the moment, our law, is held as sacred. But what's going to be done by non-whites is that law is going to be desecrated. That's the word. It's going to be desecrated because they want their way and they don't want us. Because they don't want fair law. They want their way every time. They do not comprehend the light. And this is the thing. They've schooled lots of Western kind to not recognize the light, to not comprehend the light, and not to live by the light. And it's a fucking big issue for our people. Because we do well when we live by the light. And we do extraordinarily poorly when we live in darkness. The good news is that a candle on top of a hill cannot be hid. A candle, once lit, dispels darkness. But who will be holding the candle when there's no light? And who will relight the candle once it's out? Is it even possible to relight a candle with no light? So this is the biggest issue for our people right now. And we have now the Commonwealth is open, and I've managed to get the DSS into a conversation. They said they weren't going to keep emailing, but they interacted because they know the law. They're very smart people, and they know. There is still honour amongst us. Amongst us, there is still honour to some degree. But once it turns into women and then into non-whites, there will no longer be honour in our law, because everything is going to be taken out from under us. We're going to have no foundation. And that's why all these various Western countries are being culled of our people, because we're not acting in the Commonwealth of Israel as to Ephesians 2:12 and 2:19. When we come back into that scripture, we will be in the body of Christ again. And when we come back into the body of Christ, things will be strengthened within us. But while there's little factions that can't get along and can't stand united, we're in trouble. So it's to the people, to that very body, to shape up and to stop blaming the victims for once. Stop victimizing the victims and be a fucking people. And then we will get somewhere. The Commonwealth is open. It is declared open, and the administration has no choice but to serve as the fiduciary until we have completely self-determined as a people. And if that means that we take silver and gold with us and leave Egypt, then we shall do it. And it would be advisable that we do. Because at this point, we're being blocked from our very core, from our very ancestry, from our very most important monuments and gardens, and pushed away, carried away, trafficked, and trafficked into the courts at a price. I just wish that our people would unite and follow the suggestions given to them, because there's only so much that we can do by telling you. But if you don't listen to the advice given you by the wise, you're going to fall into the same traps and the same problems that has been done over and over and over and over and over. And this is why we're getting nowhere. It's because you are closing your ears. You have no ears to hear and no eyes to see. And so you are pretty much the blind leading the blind. So until you stop doing that, you're just going to face the same silly things again and again and again, videoing them and having mayhem. That is not the way of the word. The word is very, very simple. Things are being done. Things are happening. So, some of our very own people, some of our very own men think and act in a way that victimizes women. I strongly recommend our men to cease such childish behavior, because you're just making us look stupid as a people. You are leaders. You have no place belittling women. You have no place victimizing the homeless. You have no place isolating the homeless or the women or anybody of our people. And you have no place training up the enemy to destroy us at some later stage in their lives, which is what they will do. And I'm not saying all non-whites are enemies, but I am saying they're certainly not our friends. There is a difference. And they know that they are not us. Every one of them knows. And when you speak honestly and straight to the law and to the point, they bow their heads because they know. The really dark ones, they think they're better. They're really something interesting. When you face those ones, that's quite dangerous. And we've seen that with one of our men having an Indian slit his throat and put him in hospital in a coma for 3 weeks. Nobody talks about that, do they? White men having their throat slit by non-white males that shouldn't be here because they have a filthy hatred of our people. They're not here for us. They're not here to build our homes. We can build our own homes. We always have built our own homes. We love our lands and our homes. As a people, we have a very healthy love for our homes, our family, and our people. But when we're so sick from being schooled into sickness all of our lives, our homes, our families, our lands, everything faces problems. And so what's happening, that's what's being done to us. It's not accidentally, oops, that non-white got our homes. That's not happening by accident. Oops, I'm renting from a non-white now. I'm renting on my own land from non-whites now. That's sick. That's a very severe illness. It's white noir. You'll see that in Jason Kuhner's book. And some people say to me, well, he behaves in a very religious-y type way, or what? Have you? How much have you added to our people? His words are helpful when you're trying to talk to people who are partway in between, who don't know what's going on, or they have an inkling, but nobody's talking about it in the courts yet. Because you're all so gutless. You can't come part way. And yeah, I said gutless. Because you don't look strong when you're pushing away the word. I just want to look at these two structures. Let's have a, oh, did I just make it bright? Oops. That's not what I wanted. I don't want it bright. Turn the lights down. Come on, down. Oh, that's better. Right, there we go. There's our two structures. They're not. This has gone back up to too light. Come on, go down. Alright, let's go there. Oh, you can do that. That's cool. Alright. So there we are. Pretty. Whoops. Oh, turn down the light. There we go. That looks a bit decent. That's how it really looks, a bit more closer to how it really looks. Yeah, so the other one, there it is. I can't remember what that's called. Is that Captain Cook's house, or is that, I don't know what that one's called. It's one of the original houses in Melbourne, in the King's Domain. Beautiful area. So good. When Stephen on Locust and Honey says our King's Domain, oh, I feel good about that. That's great. And it is ours. And it will not be handed to anybody. It's ours. It's our history. It's our family. It's our life. Make no mistake. So, anyway, it is night time and I just want to get going. So, I was knitting and knitting and knitting and knitting. Knit. Trying to get a cardigan made. I think I could price them up so that I could get some money out of it. Not that I want the money, I want to produce some quality so that people pay the decent price and then I get something back. The price of the work today is absolutely insane, but I want to get to a place where I can have a home with a knitting machine so that I can actually be productive. But how the fuck am I going to do it? I don't even have a people. I mean, there are ones here, there, but they're so far spread out. It's really difficult. And we've got so many nons in between that are just not productive. And some of them, the ones that are really importing from their own country, from their own people. They have no interest in us. They just want money and our homes and everything else. And they get them. They literally get them. They get the jobs handed to them. They get everything handed to them. Because they're foreign invaders and that's what certain groups want. But we don't have to go into that. See if I can get it closer. Can I get it closer? No. That's as close as we get. Nice, isn't it? Sorry about being wobbly. Anyway, I'm gonna go. And yeah, some things to think about. See if I can get references for those 2 words. Seems a good idea. Alright. Good night.